Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs and today I have a masculine birthday card to share with you guys. So let's jump right in. So if you've been with me for a little while, you'll know that it was recently my husband's birthday and I needed to make him a card. Now I'm going to make two just because you guys know I sell my cards, and so then I have one on hand if someone else needs one for kind of their husband or another man in their life. So, or, anybody really. So I'm going to cut down my bases. I'm making a 5x7 card. So I'm going to cut this down to 10x7. And then of course I will score it here in a minute down to the 5x7 mark. Now for my layers, I'm doing the same that I would normally do with my black mat. My gold layer is going to be 1/8 of an inch smaller than my my A2 base, my 5x7 base. And then my second mat, which will be a navy cardstock, will be down to 1/4 of an inch smaller. So I'm going to break these down in inches for you guys. So my first gold mat is going to be 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. Okay. And then my navy cardstock will be 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, giving me just a nice thin border. Then when I cut my second layer, I'm going to go down a full inch. So my gold layer will be 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. And then my navy layer that goes on top of that will be 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If not, you could always leave me questions, but just think of it as I'm doing 1/8 of an inch smaller than my base, and then 1/4 of an inch smaller than my base, and then an inch more than that. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, please ask. I'm more than happy. I don't know, and I live in Canada, we measure paper by inches. So you might have to use a conversion if that's not how you would do it, but that is how I understand them. And hopefully that will make sense to you guys. So I've cut all my cardstock down. You guys know that I like to start with that. And then I'm going to bust out some gold embossing here in a second because I thought that it looked the nicest with this card design. I'm going for a masculine feeling card, but I still want it to be aesthetically pleasing. So I'm going to score my bases first. You can see here that I'm scoring up the 5-inch mark. So that gives me my 5x7-inch base. And then that kind of creates the start of this card. So I'm going to bust out one of my favorite Simon Says stamp. It's like a background stamp. It's a large red rubber stamp, but it's not quite big enough for my largest navy panel. Here you can see that it doesn't fit the whole panel. I'm going to show you how I work around that. But you do have to kind of work with it because I don't have a background stamp that's actually big enough to stamp on a 5x7 card. I do have to kind of just play with the idea. So this is the Simon Says stamp UR background stamp. If it's still available, I will link and list it down below. But it's an incredibly cool background stamp. So it says stuff like, you bring me so much happiness. You are the rock in my storm. You are treasured. You are, you make me so proud. You are enough. You are my beacon. You are my arc. You give me strength. Like that kind of stuff. Like the whole background says very, very supportive and kind messages. And I think that's a phenomenal thing for my husband because he is all of those things for me. So I love this as a great background stamp, and it just adds some really interesting texture into the background. So you saw me prep my navy cardstock with a anti-static powder tool because I am going to cover the whole background with that gold embossing powder that you saw me dump in my last video, or in the last white and gold video. I have a little bit left and I'm going to use it on these cards. So I did kind of bust that out, and that's what I'm going to use to cover the panels. And I think that it's really pretty. And we're going to do a few more things to sauce it up as well, just to kind of, add a little interest in texture. I have a thing for, texture, and you could splatter a little gold on here too if you wanted to. I didn't end up doing that, but you absolutely could if you love splatter as much as I generally do. You could bring that in, but I didn't for some reason. Don't ask me why. But you saw me kind of shift it up and then double check it when I was stamping in the rest. And then the smaller panel actually fits perfectly. So you don't need to do that with that one. It's just the larger panel that did need that. And then I'm just going to cover it in the gold embossing powder, as I said, and we're going to kind of heat emboss those. But this I just thought was a really fun and interesting background texture. It's still completely legible. Some of it smudged a little bit, but I don't really think that matters, honestly. He loves every card I make for him, so I'm never really, worried that he won't enjoy it. But it did smear a little bit, but it's still mostly legible. So I'm not too concerned with the parts that aren't, because they're not really the focal of the card. They're just kind of a really fun background element. And I love how that turned out. I thought it was a really neat stamp for this. And this is why I bought it, is actually specifically for cards for my husband. Although I think that you could give this to a really good friend too, someone who's just really supportive or really, really great in your life. I don't think that it's specific to, a romantic partner. I think it's just a great all around text stamp that's, very supportive, very caring, very kind. So I think it's a great addition to your stash if you enjoy text, as long as it's still available. Like I said, I've had it for a while in my stash, so I hope it's still available. If it's not, I always try to link something similar if I can find it in the description. But any background stamp here would look cool. As long as you can still see the navy and you get that gold effect, really it would look great. You could do, some kind of like geometric shapes would look pretty neat in the background too, because it would just be interesting. Anything that adds a little interest into the background, I think, is a really great addition for this. So definitely something to consider as you are creating these if you don't have a text stamp like this. But you can kind of see that little line in the bottom where I didn't get it perfectly lined up, but I don't think you notice it on the card design. So I really don't think it matters, but you can see there is just a slight gap in the bottom of the card where I had to restamp the text stamp. Not a big deal. You're not even going to notice it when we get building all the pieces, but it is there and I can see it. So I like to point it out to you guys in case you have that same issue and then you kind of are struggling a little bit with your card. I don't create perfect cards either. I just create cards that make me happy, that I can give to my loved ones and my pen pals and my friends and whatnot. And that's really all I aim for. And then I did want to just add a little bit more pizzazz. So here I've brought out, this is the Distress mini ink. It is in black soot. And I'm just going to go around all of the edges of my navy panels. So this is going to darken it up because it is translucent. Distress inks are translucent. So if you'd have used an oxide here, I almost wouldn't. You absolutely can if that's all you have, but it gives it more of a chalky look and less of a translucent look. So just keep that in mind. But if that's what you have, try it out. See what you think. Maybe try it on a scrap piece first, but you can definitely try that and see what works. And if you have a different dark ink, try it. I mean, you won't know until you bust out your supplies and give them a go. And you guys know I am a big believer in using what's in your stash. I don't get me wrong, new is fun, there's no question, but I do think it's great to use the things that we've purchased because they're not inexpensive generally, so you want to kind of give them some love. And I'm sorry my camera's shaking here a bit. If you guys have been with me for any length of time, you know that I'm like tearing my office apart, I'm putting stuff away, so my desk was just a little farther from the wall than it usually is, and it just kind of jiggled the camera around a little bit. But I did catch that, but I apologize because it doesn't have that big of a problem. But it's one of those things, I try. And then I brought out the leaf fragment dies. Now, I don't know if this die is available anymore either. It is a Tim Holtz set. It is one of my favorite leaf dies in my stash, but it's been out for a while as well. And again, I don't know if it's available, but because I am a big, strong believer in using what you have, I would strongly suggest if you have some kind of leaf dies, bust them out, use them for this, because I think it's such a fun touch, but it doesn't necessarily read feminine instantly, right? So it's kind of just a fun touch. So I used my magic mat for this. I busted out a new one and a new plate on the top of my sandwich. And so I ran them through my die cutting machine, one in white, one in that same soft navy that I'm using from Simon Says Stamp. I don't know if I told you where that was from. And then a gold one that is my favorite. And then I'm going to smear just a touch of my Versamark on it. And that's going to allow me to add a little more gold, because why not? If you don't like this, you could absolutely skip this step. But I think that it just adds a little bit of something interesting and extra to the card. And my goal is always kind of to to create interesting designs. You know, that's always kind of what my intention is. And I think that texture and, you know, different things and different lines and different textures always kind of add something a little interesting. And I did clean off just a touch of the embossing powder with my little brush here. That's just to, you know, make it a little more patchy because the leaves are so patchy. Again, you don't need to do this step if that's not your thing. Perfectly okay. But I like to add stuff. So that is the direction I'm going. And like I said, you could absolutely splatter some gold ink or something into the backgrounds or on the leaves just to add a little bit of other texture. Again, I'm not going to do that, but you absolutely could. You could actually add a little bit of white ink too, if that was your preference, because we are bringing white into this. So you could go that direction if that's something you wanted to add. I didn't add splatter on this one for no real reason other than I didn't, and because a lot of my stuff is already packed up. But I just thought it was kind of a fun idea if you wanted to add a little more texture. And then, so I'm just going to heat set these, and you know what? It's never going to get old. Watching metallic embossing powder melt is probably one of my favorite things about creating cards. I love watching metallics melt in the heat. Like, it's just such a cool thing. It almost feels a little bit magical. Which I know sounds kind of funny, but I just love it. I think it's such a cool thing to watch. So now I'm going to start building my cards. So I'm going to adhere all my layers. You guys know I love my Nuvo Deluxe glue. And I did end up warping the panels just a touch when I was heat setting them. So I am going to put them under my Misti so that they can dry completely flat while the glue is adhering. And then that's kind of the card design. We're going to kind of build it from here. And I did add a couple of gems. If you guys have been with me for any length of time, you could even watch one video and you would know how much I love all the sparkly things. I'm going to add a very subtle gem so I think it's perfectly acceptable on a masculine card, but if you don't have them or you don't want to, don't add them. They're just something I like to add, and my husband knows me, so it's not like he's surprised that I'm going to add bling to his birthday card. I did also gold heat emboss some sentiments. I didn't show that to you guys because you'd seen me heat emboss so many things, but I did use the same HammerMill cardstock I used for the white cardstock in this, not the bases, but the panels and the leaf. I did gold heat emboss the sentiment on a piece, and then I cut them down into little labels. So you're going to see those pop up here in a second. I just didn't show it to you because I figured you guys had seen me stamp and heat emboss enough things by this point, but that is how I made the sentiment. So now I'm just going to start building up the card, and we're going to adhere all the layers. So I just want to quickly thank my members, my channel members. You guys are phenomenal. I greatly appreciate you. I just want to thank you for supporting the channel. You make it possible for me to do all this. So I greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing. You know, subscribing and liking and commenting is how you tell YouTube that you enjoy my content, that you find it useful or interesting or educational, or you just like to come and hang out. It just kind of tells them that you're enjoying it. So if you have a sec, if you'd, subscribe and like it, maybe leave me a comment, tell me your favorite card that you've made recently, or tell me the favorite card you've watched in my videos that I've made recently. Let me know something about you. I'd love to know. So if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I am hoping to hit 20,000 by the end of the year. I think it's achievable. We're going to see. We're halfway through the year, so we're going to see how it goes, but I hope that it is achievable. So if you have not subscribed, please consider. And if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate you. This is the dream, getting to do tutorials and teach different things and hopefully encourage and inspire people to create, because everybody can, so hopefully you're enjoying the content and you're, coming to hang out with me, because I would greatly appreciate that. Because I do 2 videos a week. So, if you're, you ever feeling down, come hang out. I'm around. You can always leave me a comment and talk to me. I'm here. You can chat with me. So please consider subscribing. And if you have, thank you so much. So now you can see that I'm going to start adhering all of my leaves and my sentiment. I started with my sentiment because I wanted the one white leaf to kind of sit over top of it a little bit. I managed that with this one, but in my second one, I adhered my leaves a little bit too high, so they don't actually sit that way, but I think they still look beautiful. Like the same person's not receiving the both cards, so they're not going to know that that's what is intended to look like. So I'm going to adhere all of the leaves just with my Nuvo Deluxe glue, and I am layering them up just again for some interest. It kind of makes it look more interesting to have them, you know, on different heights as well. You can see that the navy leaf in the back is the highest, and then of course I have the white and gold leaf, and then the gold leaf is the lowest and in the front. So it kind of just gives it even more interest to look at. I'm really happy with how this card design turned out. It's really, really pretty. And of course, like I said, I am going to add some bling just because I can, and because I don't think that a gentleman's gonna mind. I would hope that whoever receives the second card would just be, you know, really happy to receive a handmade card, because obviously the person cares a great deal for them if they're gonna, you know, grab them a handmade card. So I'm hoping whoever receives it will really love it. So I'm gonna hold them up here. You guys can enjoy them in all of their glory, but like I said, a little bit of splatter in the background I think would have looked pretty cool. I did not do it, but you absolutely can. And if you do, share it with me. I want to see it. If you guys ever make a card inspired by one of my videos, please tag me so I can come check it out and cheer you on. You know, you can share it in my Facebook group if you want to. There's a link down in the description. You can share it on Instagram and tag me, or in wherever, you know, just let me know, because I love seeing when you guys recreate cards that I've made. It's one of my favorite things. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.